Like I'm audible, right?
Yeah, you're audible.
So let's start it on the count of three. One, two, three. All the listeners, welcome to another episode of Growth Journey. And for today's episode, we have none other than but Javed Ivan Joshiraj, the founder of Startup Africa, founder of Build Your Own Universe and Business Development Manager at Odyssey. So first of all, Javed, welcome. What's up? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you, Tisha?
I'm doing super duper amazing, and I'm like really excited, to our conversation which we are going to have. So like I would like to just get into it as soon as possible. Does that sound good to you?
Yes, definitely.
Super amazing. So Jabez, like before I would go towards that customer engagement part, like in detail, I would like to know what was your journey? How did exactly you got where you are? How did you learn about all these things? And, like, how does that journey look like? If you can share with all of
Um, yeah, so just in terms of Johnny, or in terms of what I've done in the past, it's mostly been with dealing with customers, dealing with and when you're in sales and marketing, that's really what you look forward to do, right? And the most constructive way to actually take about this journey or take about from this whole learning experience is to actually understand each step of the customer's journey within that organization or within a particular no output that they want, or what is it that we're trying to give value to the customer. um so that's been one of my core things that I have found that's been useful, because more than just selling a product, more than just going into a company and pitching about a product, or saying this product is good, do you want to buy it, or going ahead and saying good things about your product, and then having a sales pitch, having an elevator pitch, and having everything, that's all well and done. But what you've got to do is, if you cannot add value to their day-to-day life, or if the customer cannot see that value that they have, you're not going to be able to get that product sold, right? So yeah, so in terms of my growth, I obviously started off as a sales associate, or doing sales, doing cold calls, doing lead gen, doing digital marketing, um, and you slowly progress from one step to the other. And I feel that most of my learning has come when I've hit a roadblock, or when I've hit a failure, right? How you start looking at how you can actually overcome that failure, and then seeing where you can take a next step from the learning curves that you've taken. So go back to your processes, go back and see what process you have to work on, what you have to refine, and then keep moving forward. So um, I mean, there's no success mantra, or there's no a particular set way to do things. You've got to figure out for yourself, be self-aware, and figure out for yourself what actually works for you, and take things step by step. Don't rush it because you're in a fast-paced world, or because you're in a fast-paced sales team. Don't just rush the process for the sake of it, right? Dwell on those processes that actually give you results, or just dwell on the processes that are being set for you. Think about those processes, align them, and then your results are obviously going to follow. So you've got to give it time for your results to actually reap. So if you plant a seed, right, the tree isn't gonna like grow the very next day. So you've got to water it. You've got to give it the right nutrients. You've got to have sunlight, air, whatever, right? So that's the ecosystem, or that's the process that's been created before planting, uh, just planting a seed and making a tree grow. But I'm just using that example, and that's literally how you are. And if you consider yourself a seed, water yourself with all those things, and then you will get the end result that you want.
you. That makes sense. And I think in answer you also talked about the journey of a customer with your brand.
Hmm.
Like, can you share what do you exactly mean, or like how does this journey looks like from your perspective?
You mean to say like a journey of a customer, or just within the sales funnel, or within once you've got the customer on board?
Can you share both one by one if possible?
Right. So, in terms of the journey of a customer, so now when you actually look at a customer, what is it like? Most often than not, like you have this saying that goes that customers don't know what they want until they actually see it, right? It's true to a certain point, but then you've also got to understand that if there is no need for that product in that particular region or that market, then there's no point in forcing a customer to buy it, right? And even if you do, are you actually going to have a fruitful sale? Because is that customer going to be a repeat customer? Is that customer going to stay in with you for a long period of time, or use your product for 2 3 months and then figure out, oh, at the heat of the moment I was sold this product, but I'm actually not using it? And it happens with us on a day-to-day basis, right? So we buy something, we either have a buyer's remorse, or we think that this product doesn't actually do what it's supposed to do, right? And do you go like, if it's a small thing, you obviously do not go fight for it, or you don't go and complain about it. You just forget about it, right? You're not going to be a repeat customer there, or neither are you going to be speaking about those experiences to other people, because you didn't have a good experience with that product, or you didn't have an experience with that product. Like, you didn't have anything to do. There was no relationship between you and that product. So there was no necessity for you to actually speak about it. So what you actually want to be getting in at is having a product which um which other people are able to speak about it to others, or to other friends of theirs, families of theirs. And if you can't get that done, then there's no real value that you're adding into their lives, right? So when you look at customer journey, I think, like, just looking at a customer's perspective or customer's vision, like when you're actually adding value to their day-to-day life, that's when the next phase of growth of the customer within that product, or whatever your services that you're selling, or what exactly you want, you can get those outputs from them. So you want data from the customer based on them using your product, or you want them to engage with your product more often. Then that's when you can expect that, once you've created that value within the mindset of the customer.
That makes sense. So, like, if we are providing any kind of service, and if it's just not going to provide any kind of legit value or dense value in like a customer's life, or the person who is buying and consuming that product,
Mm-hmm.
then it won't be that fruitful. Maybe that customer or consumer won't ever come back to your brand or your business or your
Right.
services.
Exactly.
Very interesting. But coming back to the customer engagement part, so I think that every single person knows that engaging with your customer, talking to them, understanding them, all these things are very important. But what
Correct.
I see every single day is that people are not, or businesses are not that much focusing on understanding the customer, but they are just trying to find a person who they can sell as soon as possible, because they want to just generate that revenue as soon as possible before the quarter ends or the financial year ends. Like,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, what are your thoughts on
Yeah, so, like, see, the thing is, you have three steps to just the customer engagement, right? You wanna engage and communicate with that customer. You wanna retain and grow them. Like, basically, when you're engaging and communicating them, or like when you're actually having that whole you speaking as a brand to them, or you speaking as an entity to them, you want to be able to give them the context and give them an experience, or show them an experience. And then you want to move on to the retain, like just retaining them, and making sure that they are adding trust and adding loyalty within your base, or within your usage of your product or services. And then you want to fuel them as much as you can, right? You want to fuel that growth within your experience, or within that relationship. It's a relationship, right? It's basically, that customer journey is a relationship between you, the company, It's not a personal relationship, but obviously it is a relationship within that person who you've sold the product to, and the company or the organization. So um yeah, so again, going back, like when you're saying that in the fast-paced sales team, because you're not going to look at the customer engagement, or you're not going to look at giving value to the customer, that is something that's, I think it's a top-down thing that has to be worked upon, right? So if you're gonna have the sales team completely detached from the marketing team, so you have a lot of a lot of the companies, what they do is have the sales team and the marketing teams very detached, so you don't know what leads I'm getting. So for example, if the marketing team generates some lead, uh, after you've given a cold call, after you've emailed them, and the customer abuses you, or the prospect abuses you, or says, why are you repeatedly calling me? Why am I getting this nuisance? Or why am I getting all these calls? What happens next is, oh, this customer, this lead gen team is what, like this marketing team is the are the people who gave me that lead. So why not go and yell at them? So you have this friction between the sales and marketing team, right? But what I feel is, when you start looking at the aspect of the sales and marketing team working with combined efforts to actually, because you see that the sales team are the people who are actually going in and meeting customers face to face or prospects face to face, and the marketing team are generally doing back end work or conducting campaigns. If you can merge the knowledge of the sales team and the marketing team together, you'll get a much better customer engagement, or a much better prospect that's actually coming on board, a much better portfolio of a database of lead generation as well. So that's a key aspect to getting on board the right customers. Like in a business, you don't want to be focusing in on the wrong people. That's again what I said. Why would you forcefully want to sell a product which you know that is not going to be useful to the customer? Because if even if they do buy it, it's not going to work out, right? So this is the same case when you go into B2B sales as well. When if for example a company does not require a product, they're not going to buy it from you. Like if for example, if I have if I have a service, or if I have a software service that I have to sell, if the company does not want it or need it within that market, or they do not require it for their business, they're not going to buy it. No matter how much you pressurize them, no matter how much, because the funding is not going to be given from the director level or whoever is owning that business. You're not going to get that money sanctioned for that product, right? So look at it like that in the B2C market, and things will actually start changing a little bit.
That makes sense, of course. Very interesting perspective, I would say. Like just combining the marketing sales, but still, I think so. It is quite clear that marketing and sales team need to work together to get like the high quality leads and conversions, I would say. And it's not like businesses don't know it, but still they are not doing it. Like, is there any specific reason you personally found for which businesses are not doing it?
Yeah, so I mean, anywhere that I've gone in, or anywhere I've started working on just profit and loss teams, or just mainly working with the businesses, most of the time I've tried to create, like, it's that friction or that barrier that is created. Like, it's an unsaid barrier. It's something, that friction is created by a sense of misunderstanding, or just as a manager, you say, like, when you're managing a team, and when you're saying, okay, those leads are there in the bucket, so go and call them, go and contact them. But when your sales team comes back with feedback saying that these leads are actually not valid leads, I'm not able to get any output because of these leads, or I'm not able to actually convert these leads because they came from this pile of junk, or it was from this campaign that was conducted, and this wasn't a successful campaign. Now, what exactly the next step that the manager does is, okay, I'll send you more leads, right? Now, without looking into the fact that, okay, those leads haven't worked, and let's go and understand why they haven't worked, and maybe let's actually speak to the team, what they could do better. Closing that feedback loop, actually starting that process of evaluation, and actually having that research done together in tandem. That's where I think that friction starts. And you pass on the communication to your teams, like, oh, the marketing team did that, so because they've generated those leads, we have to call them, right? Why waste time and money and effort in a lead that is not going to buy a product from you? So know your customers well, and that can only be done if you can actually understand what your customers want from you. So, and that you can do literally by, you don't have to do a big market research, you don't have to have like a big R&D team that goes out and researches about your product needs, like in services. It's just a simple trigger. You just have to meet the people who actually meet customers or prospects on a day-to-day basis, or who actually speak to people. Go meet the sales team, ask a few of the sales team what their perspective is, and how, like, what are the responses that they're getting. Or even just randomly assess calls or cold calls, or randomly assess replies of customers that are coming into your database. Have like feedbacks from your direct customers. Like, you have a customer, have a feedback journey with your customer. Add in a process where, after you've sold the product, not just after you sold what's your experience, because what happens most often is, once you've sold a product, now I've got this product, and I'm getting 1,000 calls for the next 1 week, say, asking me, am I enjoying the experience? Because we're in the refund period, right? We're in the trial period. We're in like a phase where we can, like, at a vulnerable stage where we can get a refund. So what does a sales team do? Is always in touch with the customer for maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month. Um, and the moment that period stops, you've left the customer hanging, and now the customer's like, oh, what's this shift? There's a complete shift now. So that's where you have to have a customer support or a customer success team which actually dwells in on keeping that connect. Have those automate, like, even if it is automated emails, just have those connections set, or have those sequences set up, which makes it much easier for the customer to see, okay, fine, they're asking me for feedback, how, like, maybe a random email on how to actually improve, or if you're not using this product, have an email sent where, how to efficiently use it better. Even if it's just an email communication, it doesn't have to be a call and a 5 to 10 minute call. Just because you've gotten on that customer doesn't mean you don't have to work on that customer. That customer can bring you 10 more customers.
That makes sense. And like businesses just don't focus on all these things, and they are like, okay. And then like all that friction and all like gets into existence, and boom, all the
Exactly.
problems starts to happen. Hmm. That makes sense. Okay, so coming back to the next question. Okay. So it's, as you have been into customer engagement for a good amount of time, you have been dealing with customers for a good amount of time. What is like have been the major problems which you personally have faced when you are engaging with a person, a customer or a consumer?
Um, yeah, so I mean, when you're engaging with the customers, so not every customer actually wants to be spoken to, or I mean, if, for example, if just think of it this way, you buy a phone, and whether you buy it from Apple or Samsung, after you buy the phone from them, do you get 1,000 calls, or do you get even calls asking you if you have enjoyed your experience? Right? It's you don't, like, you don't, it's unheard of in that market, right? So, um and like, what are they doing? How are they understanding their customers, right? And for them, it's just how much you use a phone, how, like, all those data is there for them, because technology is obviously, you can obviously have that feedback loop. But it's not required for them to actually give a phone call to you and then ask you, are you enjoying your experience? Right? I'm pretty sure they're probably doing it in a small level or trying to understand, and they have research that is being going in, and obviously they're having ways to find out that communication or getting that communication from customers, from developers or whatever it is. Like there are ways to find that out. The main blockage is obviously how how to get a customer to actually respond to a feedback, you know, even a feedback email or a feedback call. Just I'm calling you just to understand whether you're using your product. Now, um, that's where I think your integrations, whatever you have as a product or a service, you've got to have a good connect, right? And you've got to have a process which is set for customer engagement. And whether you use tools or not, you've got to understand, like, obviously there are multiple tools that are there to use for this, right? I don't want to name particular tools because I guess there are obviously a lot of tools that are to be used in terms of customer success or customer engagement, and a lot of CRMs also do it. Now, what happens is, are we using that effectively? So that's as an organization, as a business unit, as a team dealing with customers, you got to understand, are you doing the best you can, or are you being able to use that CRM or use that to use those tools that you have and outreach to the customer? Are you doing that as at the best of your abilities, right? And that's again a top-down approach where your management goals and objectives have to be to ensure customer success, ensure customer is engaging with the products and services. So you've got to understand, like, before selling a product, that product or service has to fall into that prospect's eye at least 3 to 4 times. Just general, like, it's a trend, or you can look at it as a psyche or a psychological matter. But if you don't, like, you can see a lot of research that shows that if you don't fall into the eyes of that person like three or just 3 to 4 times, um more often than not, the customer is not, or the prospect is not warm enough to actually buy the product, right? So the same goes for engagement or customer success as well. So I think that communication gap, you can't just wake up one day morning, like, and be like, oh, I'll call this customer and ask him how his experience was, right? It's a built up communication. That's what I'm saying, it's a relationship that you're having. So if that company and that customer is to have a relationship, it has to be an ongoing relationship, right? So if you don't communicate on a regular basis, or if you don't have that communication loop or a feedback loop, then you're leaving that customer out to dry. And then all of a sudden, when you go to them, obviously there's going to be backlash. It's like, where were you all these days, right?
Okay, that makes sense. Communication is like one of the most important factor when we talk about
Mm-hmm.
customer, and that is also consistent, continuous communication, not like out of the blue one day. Hey, you are using this product, right? How is your experience? It don't have to be
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Even just and no, just look at them as, like, if you were to buy the same product that you're working with, or the service that you're using, how would you want your experience to be? Obviously, you don't want a daily messaging service with them. You don't want to have, hi, good morning, how are you? But what is it that you actually want? Like, what is the intention of your product or service to add value into their life? So understand that, like, and when you start understanding a product as not just a thing that you're selling and them buying, it's an experience that you're creating. That whole experience has to be holistic. So you have to close that loop with feedback, with communication, with data that you're taking from the customer as per usage data. Obviously, we do a lot of research on understanding how long our customers are using our products, or how long are they taking to use our products. So when you go to market strategies, you look at aspects of if my product or service, once it hits the market, how long does it take for your product to actually, how long does it take to train the customer to use your product, right? So how long does it take to for your customer to actually get engaged with your product and start using it on a regular basis, right? This is there in the education market, this is there in the software market, this is there in all your top tier IT services, or just general data like that you collect and you understand. But are you putting those data to use? Even if all those data is there, most of the management or most of the people working in that organization have no idea, no clue that that data is even valid, right? So when you have that data, put that data to use and actually look at those. Even if you're a lean organization, even if you're a lean startup, or if you're a small startup working with an agile management, like, you still have to close that feedback loop. You can't skip that process in feedback, right? And like, if you look at, for example, if you even look at agile management, uh, that feedback is literally the essence of your next step, right? And without that, you're going nowhere. So you've got to understand that in a more tight perspective, and you've got to look at it very closely.
Well, I would like literally agree on that part that that big data utilization is one of those things which is
Mm-hmm.
required right now in a lot of companies, because companies that started to collect data after getting into this IT computer new tech world or generation or era, whatever you want to call it, but still, how will they utilize it is something which is very important, which I don't think so majorities are doing. There is this 20% companies, I would say, who are utilizing that big data, but then there are 80% who are either not able to or are just not doing it due to some or other reason. So yes, I would agree on that data utilization part for sure. Okay, and this actually takes me to my next question, because I think in the answer you talked about the strategy and the structure and the funnel you create to have that customer engagement. How does that strategy or construction or structure looks like, and like what process do you personally follow to create it, like is there anything like
Yeah, so I mean, it's again going back to a couple of a couple of pointers that we actually speak about. I mean, the same way that you look at, like, for example, now if I'm a manager, if I'm a director, or if I am a senior manager, or whatever I am within that organization, what do I do when I hire an employee, right? I educate the employee on the company's goals, vision, mission. We ask we the first in like just your first general conversation, as even if you're an HR, what do you ask your prospect or a prospect employee, right? Um, Now you ask them, did you have the time to go through the company website, right? Now, the same way, like, you've got to understand, like, when you're dealing with a prospect, you've got to understand again, like, how did you come to know about us? Like, do you know about us? Right? Like, if the prospect says that I have had no idea, like, you even existed till date, that's a different story. Like, so obviously you haven't, like, the conversation has to change there. It's not, okay, fine, I'm calling from here, so we do this, and I think this product will be helpful for your day-to-day life, and I think this product will help your life to that's not how you create value to them, right? It's not just having a pitch and just following it blindly, right? I would say personalize those interactions. Make sure that whatever interaction that you're having actually has meaning, like, has a meaningful context within that customer. So if the customer has never seen you, never heard of you, try to warm them up. Like, on your first call, don't pitch, just ask them, right? Just ask them, are you, like, do you actually have issues dealing with so and so issue on your day-to-day basis? Let's say I'm for example, if I have a planning software, a mind mapping software, right? Now, do you find yourself stranded with a lot of ideas, but not able to get a sense of direction, right? Like start just listening to them. And that's where it's like this also comes down to the sales team as well, right? And because they're the ones dealing with the customers, it's a spread out. Like if you're customer centric, just because your organization values and your company business website says that you're customer centric does not mean you're customer centric, right? Just because you write that as, oh, I want to make sure that this is a customer centric organization does not mean you're customer centric, right? So personalize those interactions, have conversations, have a tendency to listen to the customers, even the customers' unsaid words, even prospects that do not turn out to be customers. Listen to them. Don't think of them as waste of time. Listen to them, have feedback from them as well. You'll learn a lot, right? The same way, like if someone says, you're bugging me and you're calling me so many times and is cutting the call, think about what time are you calling them? How many times are you giving them a call? And what are the times that you're calling them? You might be calling them at 10 o'clock. They just arrived, or they reached work and they're going into that first daily meeting, or whatever it is. They might be just walking into the meeting or just walking into office, and they're already stressed about all the stuff that they have to do for the whole day. And that's when they get a call from you at the same time every day. Switch it up, right? Like maybe one day call at, like if you call at 10 o'clock, the other day try to call at 2 o'clock. Or if they do pick up, just it's going to take a 2 minute, it's a 2 minute conversation. Can I know when next to give you a call? Right? At least, but make sure that they know what company you're calling from or where you're calling from. Just in case something rings a bell, they might have done their research. Oh, this person called me, right? Like, let's just check what, you know, because people use Google, they have it on their phones, and make sure most of your like another thing that I'd like to point out was, a lot of our communication is based on a laptop and is based on emails, and like a lot of our communication that we're doing is based around the emailing space, right? Newsletters, emails, and so on, right? Just look at, like, even if you look at a lot of surveys or just research papers, 75% of the society right now, okay, or just your general people like that you're looking at, are doing everything with your phones. Even work emails, like, um, for me, that's the most convenient. Like, you're just walking and then you get a mail, you just look at the, when you read the tagline, you know if it's important or not, then you know whether to respond or not. If my boss is emailing me, I open it straight away. I reply back straight away, right? Noted, like, even if it's just noted, I will look into this, or I'll check, I'll get back to you, or whatever it is, you communicate straight away, right? But why is it that, like, we are not personalizing experiences for phones? Go and check if how your email looks on a phone. And sometimes you'll literally be dumbfounded if you actually look. A lot of these personalized emails that they're sending, if they open it on their phone, like, or they open it just on a Gmail app, it like the format is just so messed up, you can't even like understand what company, who's me emailing me, what's the context of the email, what exactly is the call to action, nothing, right? So that's basic stuff, like basic simple stuff like that you can actually look into before going into the market and doing a widespread campaign. You've got to look at and sort out internal stuff like this. You've got to make sure that your communication is right. And then, like, just listening to the customers again, like I said, following up with them, having those recorded responses, having those communicate, and like we speak, or we might call them up and we might have had a conversation, we don't log the conversation, that we've lost that So again, when you call them the second time or third time, when you're calling 100 leads, you're not going to remember what you spoke to them, right? And then try to offer content that's helpful to them. So now if you know that this customer is working in so and so organization, or if he's a CEO or a director or whatever, like try to personalize that, but also give him some bit of content which is helpful to them. Like it doesn't have to be like you're working with the whole R&D team, you're working with the whole product team, you're working with everyone within the organization, bringing about a change in like an email just for one email. I'm saying just have that connect like within your customer base, and have like be able to like just work around the plans or the value that they expect from what the product that you have, you know. And just mind map that, and like have a mutual action plan for collaborating and getting forth a decision across, and then try to sell in a product, or then try to pitch in a product, then try to take a an approach where you can actually start pitching about them, and giving him the details about how we as an organization can help you as with our products and services.
Okay, but don't you think like if I have like 100 leads, then even that micro personalization will also take that large amount of time because there's like this large quantity of leads. So like, is this even feasible?
100%, like 100%, it's gonna take time. So that's where the question comes in. Do you want to be calling 100 and like do you want to be calling 140 leads and finding out that only 20 to 30% of those leads are actually valid and who actually would say that you're interested? Or do you want to work on just try it out? Like, I mean, I've tried it out and I've seen that like even if I've dropped that 140 to like what 100, or even if you're dropping it down a little bit more, you're still getting that 20 to 30. It's not like it's not changing the aspect of anything. Like it's you're just working and nurturing the leads, so you're getting the work that you're putting in, you're getting more out of it, right? So do you want 30 out of 8, do you want 30 out of 80 calls that you're doing that to be a success, or do you want like, so 30 out of 140, which ratio looks better for you, right? So uh it's about what you value the most. Like what I'm trying to get at is like if you are customer centric, then you've got to be customer centric in all the ways possible, even your sales funnel, even if the sales is supposed to take more time, but you're customer centric. If you are a business that's set out to be customer centric, then you've got to understand that you're keeping customer as the center point. So that's going to evolve, or it's going to have its caveats, it's going to have its time consuming approaches and so on. But for example, if you're a fast paced sales team and you do not care about like customer is not your center point, then it's fine. Then go ahead, give 1,000 calls. Like that's why telemarketers like if they if they understand a little bit that you do not understand, or you don't need this product, or if you even if you don't have the knowledge of this product, sometimes they'll just cut the call. Like they're like, this person, it's a useless call, they don't want to pursue it, they don't want to have an engagement with you, right? Just take credit card sales for example. Like if even if you know that, like for example, as like, yeah, hi, good morning, like they'll try to pitch the product within that one, they're so fast. And then if they understand that, the moment they understand that if you're not interested, or if you do not have that little scope of giving your application, or the doubt of even saying, okay, my PAN card number or whatever, if you would not like to give those details, they'll immediately hang up, right? They're not going to be like, so do you think that this credit card will help you in the future? Do you think you will use this feature in the credit card? No, they're not trying to build a relationship with you at all. and the same person will call the next day. They might try 3, 4, 5 times, and they see rejection every time. So be it, and then that's it. They're in, like, the journey ends there, right? But when you're in a product, or if you're in a service that actually provides value on a regular basis to a customer, then you would have to think, are you ready to invest the time for customers to actually understand customers in the right way possible? So if you're customer centric, then think about it like this as well.
Okay, that makes sense. And this actually takes me to my next question also, because when we talk about executing these kind of things, sometimes companies prefer to have like a special individual team or like person to just and only take care of this customer engagement part, while
Mm-hmm.
there is this other side where companies teach these things to every single person who is going to engage with their customers in some or other sense. And like they just teach them, they're like, you are doing your work, that's good, but at the same time you have to focus on this engagement part also. So like
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about customer engagement, how much time and like manpower it actually requires, or like how exactly a company should normally execute this customer engagement part?
So yeah, so apart from so one thing to look at is one is prospects who you want as customers. Those are nurtured by your sales team already, right? So when you're talking about customer engagement, and when you're speaking about like customer support is different, obviously. But when you're actually speaking about customer engagement, now once the customers actually got your product or service, now the next stage is to retain them and nurture them, right? And how much time? Um, see, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you're there's no one size fits all, if you look at it like that, you're gonna go like you're gonna go miserably wrong, and it's not gonna work out because of the fact that uh, like different customers might face different issues, but obviously you are gonna generalize a few things to make it more simpler for you as a business unit. So, in terms of manpower that you have, whoever or how many ever people that you have, like if you're getting 8 hours from an employee, like you can manage that time wisely. Like that's what I'm saying. If you like right now, there are so many automated tools. Like most of your CRMs have automated emailing softwares and so on. So and then if you have an app for your business, you're going to have push notifications that you're going to send, and you're going to have a lot of different ways in which you're going to interact with your customer. Like just look at, for example, like Zomato, for example. If you look at their push notifications, like, hey there, are you hungry, like, you know uh, I mean, you can understand all these things, like those are like, it might make you laugh sometimes. Like you see that notification, you're like like I was just thinking about food, but like those are the trigger points, right? That's what makes that business run, and that's what makes them tick, and they found that way of doing things. Now, so again, find what you're good at and what your value to that customer is, and then start working about like that's what I would say conversational marketing. But like that conversational marketing does not stop. It's a non-stop thing. It's something that continues even after you've got the customer on board. You can't stop, right? So take advantage of that and like keep pushing for that communication with that customer. Um, it's a cycle. Like I would say, I mean, any customer, like just because they've bought your product and that's it, like it's not a one size oh sorry, it's not like a one time purchase where you've bought it and then that's it. Now with just for example, like now you're again, if you just go to smartphone brands, for Apple for example, if you take iPhones, uh someone who's used an iPhone, what do? They switch, like after they've bought an iPhone, they pretty much stick with that the entire lifespan. Like they like the ecosystem, they might go ahead and buy another product from them, and then it just, it's immersive, so you keep adding on. So that's where you've got to understand how to actually take them through those experiences. How does Apple do it? Like, do you see them do it physically? They don't, like, you don't see them do it physically, or they don't make you do something. uh, it's the ecosystem that's actually designed in such a way, whether it be price points, whether it be your products and products that are launching, whether it be the integrations that the products have together, just that immersive integrations, or this just that whole ecosystem itself creates those that opportunity for customers to want them again. Right. So, yeah. So again, just reiterating the point that, like, you've got to have those. If you are a customer centric organization, then you've got to be ready to put that time in, and you've got to have a department for that, or you've got to have the manpower for that. So if you have 100-member sales team, maybe 20-30% of that should be customer. You should have a 20 to 30% ratio of a customer engagement team as well. So, it has to be there. It's like, who's going to nurture your customers once they're on board? You've got to understand that as well.
I would agree with that part, to be honest. And this actually takes me like one of the final questions of our conversation, like last second or last third, I would say. So basically, this is not about the person who might be a customer in future. So it's not like related to sales team. This person had already bought a product. Okay. Now after that, engaging with this consumer customer, there are like a lot of platforms and like a lot of different ways, from calls to emails to social media and like all other places where we can engage with these customers, even by creating your own community on Discord or on some other platform. Which platform would you personally prefer? Which way will you personally suggest businesses to contact your customer? I know it is like a little bit subjective according to your target audience and where they are mutually active, but still, if you have to select one or suggest one, which will that be and why?
Yeah, so I would, any support suite softwares, right? Like, now you see, like, any of these support suite softwares, what do they do? Like, they have, just take Zendesk for example, Zendesk or Freshdesk, or all these support softwares, like, what do they do? They give you a clarity, they give you data, they give you um, maybe a ticketing option, and just email responses, email support, like, how to prioritize your customers based on the issue that's pertaining, right? Um, like, I wouldn't say that use one particular software. There are so many, like, there's so many like, if I'm a startup, right, and I have only a 5 or 10 member, say, like, let's say I have a 10-member team, and we're doing everything together. Um, do I need for example, if I do I need any solutions from Salesforce, or like Salesforce Service Cloud, or Azure CRM Plus, or that sort of would I get a product or a service that's very expensive right now, inbuilt immediately? Maybe you might not have the budget. And if you do not have the budget, like, look for something that's usable, and look for something that you can actually collect that data, and that data should be transferable. So, like, once you grow as an organization, obviously you need to move into one of those top rated or top tier tools. You need to start using them, but at the same time, do not that's where you differentiate, Tushar. Like, I keep coming back to this point because I think it's very relevant, because um, what are your aims and goals as a company, or what is your vision as a company? If your vision as a company is customer oriented, and if it is customer centric, then you've got to put in the investment, money, time, everything, your resources, everything has to reflect that I am customer centric. And if you're not customer centric, and if you do not have that, like, because if your product or service does not have the intention of having a direct customer relationship, then you might avoid it for now just because of budgeting or just because of certain issues, so um, resources are plenty, right? Automation tools are plenty. um and I say, like, I look at, like, how, for example, LinkedIn, Twitter, all these social media platforms have automations where messages from businesses come. And why can't we, like, we can integrate that even to customers who are with us, right? So even if it means like using social media for your advantage. So for example, Instagram, whether it be reels or whether it be a video, or just having that discussion with your customers. And a lot of businesses are focusing on Facebook, but like Facebook is like a dying market, like a spiral, right? It's like your depending on your target audience and your market, like obviously you'll switch, but social media is a powerful tool, and you can use social media to your leverage, not just use these CRM platforms and use these support suite softwares. Um, try to look at ways in which you can actually take forward an approach which works for you as an organization in an organizational level. Like if you're a medium-sized organization and you want to focus more on um, in customer acquisition and so on, you'd put in the efforts for that. Or if you want to work on customer success, you'd put in the efforts for that and look at tools that will actually do the job. Like I've been in companies where we use like a very basic tool from a basic, like another startup, but then you switch maybe a year down the line, once you've got the funds, once you've got the business running. So those are ways in which you can actually look at it.
Important point of this whole conversation, I think, so we can say, is that is your business customer centric or not?
Or not. Yeah.
Because if it is, you have to focus on it. You can't
Yeah.
just ignore that most important aspect of your business. Like if you're
Yeah.
calling yourself that, okay, I am going to be a customer centric business,
Mm-hmm.
you have to focus on them. Otherwise,
Yeah.
how exactly are you a customer centric business or
Yeah.
product or service at the end of the day?
Yeah.
So, and like after that, so everything depends on the situation and customers and
Exactly.
the budgeting
Just
and funding.
exactly. So just making it, I mean, just putting customer first, uh, making it look good, like making a company look good just by saying customer first does not get you anywhere, right? um the same, like, so if you it's the same as like promising something that's not there within your organization, or a product that's like launching within, maybe every product or every service is customer base. It should be customer centric, but not everything can sustain in that way, because it doesn't require that intensity of customer interactions, right? So you've got to understand that balance. So if yours does, then yes, it's very applicable to you.
Super amazing. And Javed, this was our time. It was a fun conversation. Let me know how was your experience.
Tushar, it was wonderful. Thanks for having me as well. I think we've had like a brief chat and then we've hopped on this call. So yeah, so I'm happy to take any questions, or if anyone has any questions, they can email me, find me on LinkedIn or contact me through LinkedIn. And yeah, so if I'm all ears to any suggestions, feedback, or anything that you guys have to say. If this was helpful, then obviously shout out and give me a message or whatever.
Sure. Like I'm telling you, so this is basically going to like convert it into a podcast, and also all those things will be shared with you, and like we will also like promote the podcast. So we will share your
Perfect.
email at the same time LinkedIn, so that people can DM you and ask and clear all the doubts they have. So like that part
Wonderful.
was already covered from our side,
Yeah.
and it was a fun experience because I also got some different perspectives, I would say, because there
Mhm.
was some things where I was confused, and like I got some clarity, especially around the initial and the second half of our podcast when we are talking about why it is important and why businesses are not doing this. So like that brought some great clarity. And once again, thank you so much, Javed. Like you take out the time. It is such an early morning at your place. So like once again, thank you so much. And with that, bye bye.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.